Hello folks, welcome back. In this tutorial, we will go ahead and talk about arrays. Now, what do you mean by array? An array is basically, it's a collection of a similar kind of elements. Now, so far we have talked about the primitive data types. Let's say we have talked about integer, we have talked about long, what is a string, double, etc. So in these kinds of data types, these int was only to store one number. Long is to store in one number, string is to store one name, double is to store one decimal number. So all of these can have only one element can be stored in it. Now, what is an array? Let's say there is a scenario that I wanted to go ahead and keep track of the 50 students' names that I have in my class. So do you think, is it a good idea to create 50 string variables to store the name of each of my student? No, that's not a good idea. So in that case, arrays comes to rescue. Now, what is this array? Array is a collection of similar kind of data. So let's say I wanted to go ahead and store 50 names of my students. So I will say, give me an array. So I'll create an array and you have to specify what type of an array it is. Is it an integer type or is it a string type or what is it? So for example, if it's an array of strings, so I will go ahead and say string of, and then I'll say str is equals to new of string. And then you also need to specify the size. So here if I say 50, what it has done. So this is the way of creating an array. I'm specifying the type of the array. It means only the string elements can be stored in this array. And I'm also defining, and this is the name of my array, str, and this is the size of my array. Means this particular array can have up to 50 elements. So basically, array gives you a memory block with those 50 blocks in it, and you can go ahead and store each of those 50 names in this 50 blocks. And each of these names will have an index to it. So for example, I wanted to go ahead and create an array, and I have a string array, and the name of is called str and new of string. And let's say I only have up to 5 names I wanted to go ahead and store. So what will computer will give me? Computer will give me a memory with these 5 blocks, and each of those blocks will have an index to it. So this is str of 0, this is str of 1, this is str of 2 index, and this is, so indexing start from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Since I need 5 elements, so this is the memory that computer is going to give it to me. Each of this block I can store a name. So I can store John here, I can store Steve in here, I can store Harley in here, I can store David in here, I can store Adam in here. So these are the names that I have stored in this array. So its array can have a collection of similar kind of elements, but you need to tell them that how much is the size of the array beforehand. You cannot, once the size of the array has been defined, you cannot change it. So now let's do an example to illustrate this. So for example, I'll create a simple array example here, new of class, and this is an array example. It has a main method. Now in this main method, I'm specifying it's an array, and the name of my array is, let's say, AR of string. This is the name, and new of string, and the size of my array is, let's say, 5. This is the way of creating an array. Now at the AR of string of index of 0, I wanted to go ahead and store the name John. I can do that. Similarly, I can go ahead and copy these lines. Five times, and this is for 0 at 1, 2, 3, and index of 4. And here I have David. Let's say this is Steve, Harley, Adam. So this is my array. It has a collection of 5 different strings here. And now let's say if I wanted to go ahead and display, I can just say, let's say I wanted to go ahead and display the array at the name at the index number 4. So I can always say name of my student at index 4 is plus this one, array of 4. So this is what it's going to go ahead and give to me. So now if I go ahead and run this program, I will get Adam here because at index of 4 I have Adam. Similarly, if I want to something at index of 1, I can always go ahead and say I need it at the 1. So this is going to be 1 that has David in it. So if I go back here and run as Java applications, this is what I'm going to get. Now let's say I wanted to go ahead and display all the elements of this array. So you can do very simple. This is an enhanced for loop. You can say for of string n, and you can go through this array string. So as long as there are elements in this array, I will go ahead and display each of the names. So names of my student, and here I can say plus of n. So array string has how many elements right now? Array string has all the 5 elements. So let's look at this memory diagram one more time. So now the array string has 5 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 at number 0 it has John. At number 1 it has David. Now at number Steve, Harley and Adam. So it's going to be Steve, Harley and Adam. So how does this enhanced for loop work? So this enhanced for loop is basically array string contains this whole collection. This whole thing is array string, this one. So this is whole array string. So now we are saying for of string n, and now we are going along this, iterating over this array string. So n has pointing to John. So this loop will run 5 times because it has 5 elements. So as long as there are elements in this array string to go through, this loop is going to go ahead and run. So first time n is pointing to John. The next time n is pointing to David. Then it's pointing to Steve. Then it's pointing to Harley. And then it's pointing to Adam. So this loop will run 5 times, and every time it's going to go ahead and print the value of n. Now n has John for the first time, David next time, then Steve, then Harley, and then Adam. So in this case, it's going to go ahead and give me the output. So let's see what's going to be the output of this program. So run as Java application. So it's going to go ahead and display the name of my students. So this is about an array. So array is a collection of a similar kind of elements. So I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thank you so much.